Have you ever felt like you were losing your mind in a relationship, like reality itself was being twisted? You're not alone. And what you experienced has a name. Welcome to Oasis Soul. Today we're uncovering the truth about narcissism, the science, the cycle, and the warning signs that could save you.
Narcissist, right? It's used for exes, for bosses, for celebrities, pretty much anyone. But what does it actually mean? You've probably seen this question, maybe even typed it into Google yourself. It's a huge theme on TikTok and everywhere else. It really feels like we're all trying to figure out if the difficult people in our lives fit this label. And this number, wow, it is just staggering. We're talking about an 835% spike in Google searches related to narcissism. This isn't just some passing internet trend. It's become a huge cultural phenomenon. It really shows that we are all together trying to put a name to a type of human behavior that is, well, it's very real and very, very painful. All right, so let's get into it. Because behind all the memes and the funny hashtags, there's a really serious psychological condition, one with some truly devastating consequences. We've got to separate the internet buzz from the hard clinical facts to really understand what's going on here. So let's start at the beginning. We need to move way beyond the stereotype, the person who's just obsessed with taking selfies. We're going to look at what the actual clinical diagnosis is and what that really means. Okay, now this is where things get really fascinating. In the general population, NPD, that's Narcissistic Personality Disorder, it affects up to about 6% of people. But just look at these other numbers. The rate absolutely skyrockets to 17% for first-year med students and a frankly shocking 20% for people in the military. What this suggests is that in certain high-pressure, super competitive environments, these traits might actually be seen as a plus. So here's the official definition, right from the DSM. That's kind of the Bible for mental health diagnoses. And the word to focus on here is pervasive. This isn't about someone being selfish every now and then. To get a diagnosis, a person has to meet at least 5 out of 9 very specific criteria, and that pattern of behavior has to show up consistently across pretty much every single part of their life. And this is where it gets even more complicated. It turns out it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Clinicians actually break it down into 2 main types of narcissism. And this really helps explain why that classic, arrogant stereotype, well, it just doesn't always fit. Okay, so here's the breakdown. You've got the grandiose type. That's the bold, entitled person we all picture. But then there's the vulnerable type, and they're introverted, super sensitive, and really driven by a deep sense of shame. They get their narcissistic supply not from people admiring them, but from being seen as a victim. And this second type, it's often missed or misdiagnosed, particularly in women. And this stat, it is truly chilling. Almost 44% of partners of people with pathological narcissism report experiencing abusive behaviors. So let's be clear, we're not just talking about a difficult personality here. We're talking about a destructive one. And you know what? That abuse, it isn't random. It's not chaotic. It actually follows this really predictable, methodical pattern that is just psychologically devastating. It's a cycle, and it's designed for one thing: control. And this is what it looks like mapped out. It's a closed loop. It's a trap. It's specifically designed to pull you in, break you down, and then, just when you think you're out, pull you right back in again. There are 4 stages to this cycle. And once you understand them, you can start to see the manipulation for what it truly is. So first, it starts with love bombing. This is that intoxicating, you're my soulmate connection that feels, well, frankly, too good to be true. Then the switch flips to devaluation. Suddenly you're criticized, you're invalidated, you're made to feel like you're going crazy. After that comes the discard, a sudden, brutal abandonment. And just when you start to pick up the pieces, you get the hoovering. Yep, named after the vacuum cleaner, because they try to suck you right back in with all these false promises. But here's the thing, it's never different. It's just hitting reset on the exact same destructive cycle. Just listen to this quote from a survivor. It's absolutely gut-wrenching, and it shows the real human cost. That devaluation stage, it isn't just about having a few bad arguments. It is a systematic erosion of who you are, your identity, your sanity, your very ability to function. So when you hear that, the immediate question is, why? Why would anyone stay in a situation that is so obviously destructive? And the answer? It has absolutely nothing to do with weakness. It has nothing to do with intelligence. The answer is in our own brain chemistry. This right here is the key. It's called trauma bonding. What happens is your brain becomes biochemically addicted to the abuser. And it happens through a process called intermittent reinforcement. Basically, unpredictable rewards. Your brain gets hooked on this roller coaster of abuse and then sudden kindness. It is the exact same powerful mechanism that makes gambling so addictive. You just keep pulling that lever, hoping for that next payout. So let's stick with that gambling idea. When the narcissist suddenly switches from being cruel back to being kind, for your brain, that's like hitting the jackpot on a slot machine. You don't just feel relief, you get a massive, euphoric hit of dopamine. And that creates this powerful, addictive craving for those unpredictable wins, making you desperately chase the high of that love you remember from the beginning. At the same time, during those long, awful periods of devaluation, your brain is just bathing in stress hormones like cortisol. This is the science behind that feeling of walking on eggshells. Your body is stuck in a state of high alert, a fight or flight response that just won't turn off. And when you're in that state, it short-circuits rational thought. Your focus narrows down to just surviving the moment, and planning an escape can feel biologically impossible. And then you've got oxytocin. This gets released during those brief, random moments of affection, and it creates a powerful biological anchor. We call it the bonding hormone. On a really deep primal level, it's telling your brain, this person is safe, this connection is vital for my survival. So when you even think about leaving, it feels like an actual threat to your life. This whole chemical cocktail literally rewires your brain. I'm gonna say it again, you are not weak, you are entrapped. Okay, so now that we get the science behind the trap, the big question is, how do you avoid it in the first place? Let's build a toolkit, because recognizing the warning signs early on, that is your first and frankly, your most powerful line of defense. All right, take a hard look at this list. Love bombing that feels way too fast, too soon. Gaslighting that has you constantly questioning your own sanity. That shocking lack of empathy. If these behaviors feel familiar, I mean, really familiar, that's not a sign of a passionate or complicated relationship. It is a massive red flag for a deeply unhealthy and probably destructive dynamic. Look, just recognizing the pattern, that is a huge first step. But the most important takeaway from all of this is that healing isn't just possible, it's your right. So the path forward, it involves some really concrete, crucial steps. Step 1, and this is non-negotiable, safety first. That means getting physical and emotional distance. Next, you need to find professional help, specifically a therapist who gets this kind of trauma. That part is critical. You also need to find your community, other people who've been through it, so you finally understand you are not crazy and you are not alone. And then you get to do the amazing work of rediscovering who you are outside of their story and finding a sense of peace you might have forgotten was even possible. Which brings us to one last, really tough question. In an age where we're all so much more aware of this stuff, what's the real truth? Can true love actually survive pathological narcissism? And here's the bottom line. True, healthy love, it requires reciprocity. It requires empathy and accountability. And pathological narcissism, by its very clinical definition, is the complete absence of those things. Understanding the profound difference between a relationship that's just difficult and one that is truly destructive, that is the first and most powerful step you can take toward protecting yourself and ultimately toward healing.